Welcome in, everybody, to the Thursday edition of the Pack a Day podcast here on YouTube. I'm Andy Herman. Thanks, as always, for joining me. Let's get started right away. I want to talk about this conversation, this topic on Twitter that keeps coming up, and that's, it's great that the Packers are 3-0, but imagine, how well they could be doing if they would have actually selected a wide receiver, defensive tackle instead of Jordan Love. Or as soon as the Packers do something well, if they're not stopping the run, well, good thing Jordan Love's sitting on the bench instead of, drafting so-and-so player in the second round, or that, got drafted in the early second round. There's these comments all the time about Jordan Love and A.J. Dillon and how they're not playing, and, that Green Bay could have gone out and really helped bolster this roster, and so on and so forth. And it gets to the point where it's not original anymore. First of all, we all recognize that the Packers did not select, a wide receiver or defensive tackle like we expected with their first round draft pick. We understand that they went a little bit unconventional. They drafted a quarterback in Jordan Love with that first pick in the draft, and then they went power running back in A.J. Dillon in the second round. Not what anyone was expecting. They certainly weren't expecting an H-back in Josiah DeGuara. And I do think there is a fair question to be had of, all right, so you have this offense that is clicking on all cylinders, a defense that's maybe a couple pieces away. What could this offense look like if they would have gone out and got another receiver, that could have maybe helped this team, or, maybe gotten, a defensive tackle that could be helping stop their run, or an inside linebacker. I know everyone wanted and continues to want Patrick Queen, who's starting with the Ravens right now. I get those conversations. I fully understand them. I understand that they're happening, and I understand why they're happening. But it gets to the point of, yes, if all of a sudden, Will Redmond or, Chris Barnes or somebody misses a tackle, it's like, well, we could have had this guy who got drafted 3 picks after Jordan Love, or, oh, good thing we've got a power running back sitting on the bench. It doesn't make any sense. So I want to talk about the philosophy behind selecting Jordan Love with the first pick in the draft. I'm not asking you to agree with it. I'm not even saying that I necessarily agree with it 100%, but I want you to hear out, and I want to kind of go over what I think is going through Brian Gutekunst's mind as he is selecting Jordan Love with the first pick in the draft, when you, me, and everyone else was expecting wide receiver, defensive tackle, etc., and you end up with a quarterback who is let's be fair, a boomer bust prospect. He may turn out, he may not turn out, which we could basically say about every first round pick. How often do we hear, this guy's the safest player in the draft, and then, he's terrible. So every player's boomer bust, but it does seem like Jordan Love is maybe that to another degree. And they take this player when Aaron Rodgers still playing at a high level, and they don't necessarily need the quarterback at this time. Heck, even Tim Boyle right now has played out or overplayed Jordan Love to be the backup, even though it's not fair to Jordan Love with not having the full offseason and everything like that. But I think you can argue that and make a safe argument that this team did not need Jordan Love for the foreseeable future. So why make this selection whatsoever? And I think the answer here, I know the answer here, is that there's a philosophy to be had that you can find good players anywhere in the draft, in free agency, and via trades. All right. We've seen Calais Campbell just traded for a 5th round pick. We saw Quentin Dunbar, a starting corner for the Seahawks, traded for, I think it was a late 4th or an early 5th round pick. Andy Janovich, a starting fullback, traded to the Browns for a 7th round pick. We see Jarrell Casey, stud defensive tackle, goes from the Titans to the Broncos for a 7th round pick. Now, contracts are a big piece of that, but you can find good players by trading middle, round picks. We've also seen Brian Gutekunst be very savvy in finding good players via free agency. He found a starting right tackle in Rick Wagner, even though he's not starting right now. We've seen that he's capable of doing it. He was able to find Billy Turner as a starting guard a season ago. He's found Za'Darius and Preston Smith, top-tier edge rushers at their, for outside linebackers. He's been able to find these type of players that he can plug in and play and have success with. He's able to find an Allen Lazard off of a practice squad. You can find good players at almost any position when you need to. It is very, very, very difficult to find top-end, high-quality, premium players. You're not going to get them in trades. You're not going to get them in free agency, and they're just very hard to come by. You better draft them, because otherwise they're probably not going to come available. And Jordan Love represents the opportunity to get a high-end premium player that you normally aren't going to be able to select when you're the Green Bay Packers, because you're usually selecting in the 20s, 30s, etc. And those type of players don't always fall to that type of position. So my argument here, if you go back and look at Green Bay's drafts, whether it be under Ted Thompson, Brian Gutekunst, even further back, their first round pick is generally, I want to say it was like 18 of the last 22 times. I had the statistic. I'd have to go back and look at it. But it was like 18 of the last 22 times. Their first pick in the draft was a premium position, whether that be an offensive tackle, a quarterback, a edge rusher, or a cornerback. Their top pick was one of those premium positions, and they are shooting for the stars, trying to get a top-tier player at a top-tier position. And Jordan Love represented the opportunity to get a top-tier player at the most important position. Need or no need, that was the goal. And I believe wholeheartedly that there is a philosophy there that is smart. You take a very high reward player in the first round. You can find good players in the 2nd through 7th rounds. Hell, you can find a starting inside linebacker in Chris Barnes, who, by the way, through 3 games, is outplaying Patrick Queen, the first round pick from the Ravens. Go watch it, but also check Pro Football Focus. Wherever you want to check, Barnes is playing well. I know it's in limited snaps, and I know Queen is playing a little bit more, but you can find good players. Kamal Martin is going to be a very good football player that they find at inside linebacker in the 5th round. You can't just go out and find players that have the potential of a Jordan Love. Now, my point here is there's a very good chance that Jordan Love never turns out. And I get that. And I understand that. And that's frustrating. And there could have been a player there that could have helped this team. There's, even if you want to look at like a guy like Chase Claypool, who's already playing very well for the Steelers, that could have been a player that Green Bay puts in that spot. There's a couple, Jeremy Chin, the safety / linebacker for the Carolina Panthers, playing very good football. Maybe that could have been a player that they looked at. Whatever it may be, there's players that they could have taken that would have been better this season, next season than Jordan Love. But I think Brian Gutekunst has this philosophy where he wants to go aggressive in round 1, whether that be Jair Alexander, whether that be Rashawn Gary, whether that be Jordan Love. He's willing to take more risks in round 1 to get that high reward player, because those are the players who win you championships. It's not T. Higgins, all right? It's not Michael Pittman. It's not Jonathan Taylor. It's not Jeremy Chin. Those are all really good football players, but they are probably not the ones that are going to propel you to a championship. Can they help you? Yes. Are they going to be the reason that you win Super Bowls? No. So Brian Gutekunst is taking players in the first round that could be insane difference makers, and he's going to get some wrong. He got Jair Alexander right, although you could go back and say Derwin James, if he was healthy, that's a whole nother topic for another day. But he got Jair Alexander right, and they have one of the best corners in football at one of the most important positions in football. Rashawn Gary, he got right. It looks now like he got that right. Well, it looks like he has the ability to be one of the best edge rushers in NFL as time goes on. He's not there yet. He's got to stay healthy. There's a ways to go, but he has started this season fantastic. And if that continues, he found another premium player at a premium position. These are players that can help you win a Super Bowl because they have the ability to be maybe not all pro, but Pro Bowl. I think Jair has the ability to be all pro, and we'll see what Rashawn Gary brings. But at minimum, Pro Bowl players at 2 of the most important positions in football, in corner and edge rusher. And now you have another lottery ticket in Jordan Love, the most important position in football. And you don't know, and I don't know, and Brian Gutekunst doesn't know. Nobody knows. Jordan Love doesn't know what the future brings for Jordan Love. But this is another potential high-impact player at the most important position in football. And again, if Brian Gutekunst does this for 8-9 years, he's going to get some wrong. And maybe Jordan Love is one of the ones that he got wrong. But if you take 3 guys, high risk, high reward, in Jair, Rashawn Gary, and Jordan Love, and you hit on 2 of them, you are doing a phenomenal job. And if he does that every 3 years, you are golden if you hit on 2 of those 3 at premium positions. So let's see how this plays out. There is a philosophy behind it. Let them get good players, and they got good players. Kamal Martin and A.J. Dillon and Chris Barnes is an undrafted free agent. This is going to be a good draft class. I really believe that, and he was able to find value that can help this team now in later positions. Josiah DeGuara is another example of that, and now he has a lottery ticket at quarterback that could cash in later, and even if it doesn't, I get the philosophy. That does it for me. Thank you for listening. I'll get off my soapbox. We'll start breaking down Falcons and Packers as the week goes along. Thanks as always for listening. I'll catch you tomorrow. Go Pack Go.